All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Jonathan with the Balloon Guild, one of the Jonathans. And I have John Fudge as a co-host on this. And we are going to learn how to build an X-weave wall using linking balloons today. This is I love backdrops. This is one of my favorite walls to build because I can take a person who's brand new to balloons, teach them how to use a machine, and then they can build a wall that I can turn around and sell for 800 bucks, 900 bucks, $1,000. So if you're a brand new balloon person, you're probably selling organic columns, organic garlands. Maybe you're selling classic columns and arches and those sort of products. And all of that's great. That's really good. But not very many of those items are you able to scale the price on like you can a wall. So part of the reason for that is that people don't order a wall from you and put it somewhere where it's not a high traffic area, or they don't hide it, right? So it's not like an arch at an entrance where you see it, everybody goes into the event and it's at the entrance. So you're not really seeing it anymore. A wall or any kind of backdrop is usually a place where like a lot of photographs are taken in front of these items. So you can charge a lot for them because it's an area that's really important. Or you can build these kind of backdrops behind a DJ. So when you go to sell this, it's a photo op. It is something to go behind a DJ booth or something like that to just basically be the center of attention to draw the eye into whatever's happening at this space. Anytime there's like, if you're booking a job for somebody and they have like a photo station, you can always offer to see if they have any kind of special backdrop. And what we're going to do, I want to take you from the beginning to the end, from planning this wall all the way until the wall is made and transported and set up on the job. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and we are going to go to Chris Adamo's program, the balloonpro.co. Can everybody see this? Is my screen being shared the way that I want it to? Um, I'm going to assume the answer is yes. If it's a no, then Mr. Fudge can let me know. So you're going to come to his Balloon Pro program. You're going to go right here where it says Design Tools. You do have to have an account with this. He does offer a 7-day free trial, so you can check it out. But you're going to go to Design Tools. I just click on it. I don't click on any other part. Actually, yes, I go to Design Templates. And it takes you to this page right here. So it starts with a duplet square pack wall as the default on this. What you're going to do is click on the add model and go to 12-inch X pattern. Okay, now here's what I'm going to explain to you before we get started is if you just use this pattern here, you're going to see the upper left section ends with a balloon that is sticking off out by itself. I don't build my walls this way, so I'm never going to start with this balloon. I'm going to add color to it so you can see the one I'm talking about. I'm never going to start with this balloon. Furthermore, I like to have these 5-inch bubbles here. I like to have them on top of my design. And you see that on the very top, there's not room to click them. There's no bubbles up here to click. So when I use this program to build a wall, I want to start where my wall has this in the top corner instead of this X shape. Even though we're building an X weave wall, I don't want the X to be the part that's showing. So I'm going to want a 5-inch bubble on top, and I want a 5-inch bubble down the sides. So for this wall, what I do is I come in, you're going to skip, basically, you're going to skip the first 2 columns and go down to the second row from the top. So a row is left to right, columns are top to bottom. So I'm going to go to the number 2. I'm going to drop down a row, and this is where I'm going to start coloring my design with his program. So the wall that we're going to make, I'm going to use white linking balloons to build the wall itself, the framing for all the other balloons. And then I'm going to add some 5-inch balloons that are going to be reflex violet. And then I'm going to add some 11-inch balloons. I'm going to show you the new Sempertex silk green. I know that's probably not the word it is. It's a silk greenish color looking balloon. Looks really nice. So you can pick whatever color you want, but you see right here, you add the color. I guess that's how the French spell color. I don't know, or Australians. But you can basically pick any of these colors that you want. It doesn't really matter, but obviously you want to do something that you're going to have the balloons for. Now, if you go to our program, we have actually, it's not in there yet. This is going to be a design that's going to be in the Balloon Guild. I wanted to teach this class first. We have one similar to this. I just made another one that's going to be a little bit more neat and tidy than the one that we had put in there before, I believe. You see it's different color. It's going to be made exactly the way I'm going to show you using this program. So back here, what I do is just click the block paint. You don't have to, you could click them one at a time. But again, the reason I wanted to show you this is this wall is 8 foot tall by 10 foot wide. And if you do some math, you can count. I'm going to count by 2, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. We're going 12 balloons wide and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 balloons tall. So we're going to come to our program. We're going to start here. I got block paint selected. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 balloons wide. And I'm going to go 10 deep. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay. Now you see that also made all these round balloons in the middle. It also made them white. It's totally fine. I don't really care. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to unclick the block paint. You can, if you want, it doesn't matter if you leave it. I'm going to add, the color that we're going to add is going to be, it's going to look kind of like that purple. And then the other color is going to be kind of like this. So I still have block paint on. And you see, as long as you don't move your thing, it doesn't matter. But for this, I don't really want to do that. So I'm going to make all of these balloons, these little ones. These are 5-inch balloons that we are going to make into duplets. Now I'll get back and explain this part to you when we start building, but these duplets are going to be, half of them are going to be the color of your linking balloons. And in this case, I'm using white linking balloons, which means all of these balloons that I'm selecting right now, technically, if you look at the numbers here, see that right now it says 74. I'm going to change this to imperial because we're Americans and have to be special, I guess. But you see 74 5-inch balloons. When I click one of these, it jumped up to 76. This program will give you a count of how many balloons you need to accomplish this. And what Chris has done, which is amazing, and is he's factored in that every one of these balloons that I'm selecting right now is a duplet, which means there are 2 balloons put together to create this one balloon that I'm highlighting. But the thing that is not going to show up here, right now this says I need 130 5-inch balloons. That 130 would be if I used 2 purple balloons for every one of these that I've selected. What we will do is we are going to use 1 purple balloon, and then we're going to use a white balloon on the back side of it. Now, you may have noticed I didn't select these balloons down here. That's because I'm not going to put those balloons on this design. I don't like the extra balloons on the bottom. It kind of sits funky, so I just leave those off. Now you're going to pick another color and you're going to just basically, these are 11-inch balloons, and the same principle applies. They're going to go by increments of 2, but when you do your own math on what balloons you need to order, for your design, remember that half of these need to be the color of your linking. And you can see how easy this is. And it's a little bit satisfying just to click a button and add some color. Now, if you accidentally click, oh no, I clicked the wrong one, you can go back to the color that it should be and click it. If I accidentally click the balloon I don't need, you can just click it again with the same color and it makes it disappear. Okay, so you have, right now, I've built the wall in this nice looking design. You can have what other, if I could speak, you can make whatever kind of design that you want. Now, we're the Balloon Guild, so what we're going to do is we're going to give you guys a lot of different designs that we've made to make life easy for you. But you can see how you can have fun with this and come up with some kind of crazy thing if you really want that you can show your client and then see if it's something that they would like for their, right? You can see how you can just have fun. Now, I'm just going to get rid of all this and I'm going to do it by making it all the right color and then delete. Okay, so what I would do from this point is you're going to turn the guides off. And now what you can do on my computer, I can do a screen, like a screenshot here. And then I'm going to take this picture that pops up and I'm going to delete the background so I have a nice PNG, which if you're not familiar with what that file is, it's a file that you can overlay onto another photograph. So if your client's like, I want you to build me a wall here, and they send a picture to you of where they want it, you can create a PNG, overlay it onto their photo and make sure you size it so that the size makes sense, and then send it back to the client. People will buy the things that they see. So instead of me describing a wall to a client, I would love to show them. And when they see the wall with the colors of their company or their branding or whatever, it's going to sell itself a lot better than just telling them about what you're going to do. So hopefully you guys can see how easy it is to design a wall. We are going to start putting, after this class, we're going to start putting a lot of designs that we've made into our website. But what I'm going to show you today is it doesn't matter what the design you have is, they are all going to be built the same way. The only thing that you would have to be careful of is if you're going to have a design where you're making stripes that are vertical of a specific color, and then the other ones are going to be like this. You just have to be mindful of the order in which you put them together, that the right colors end up in the right place. But as far as how you're going to build it, they're going to be the same process, the same steps. And whenever I'm finished, you're going to see it is extremely, extremely simple. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go from showing you how to build one on a computer, and we are going to build one in real life. Now you can see I already have some balloons. I've pre-inflated a lot because what you guys don't want to do is watch me blow up hundreds of balloons. I'm going to move the chair. And I'm going to show you two things. One, you can print this out from his program and it gives you all the numbers. So whenever you're creating a packing list for your design, you will have this printout and you should have the numbers. That makes it easy. The only thing you have to remember to do is take the balloons that are not the linking balloons, divide that number in half so that you can use half of them are going to be white in this case, and the other half are going to be the color. The other thing that would make your life really easy is using the recipes that we have. And then these recipes are going to take you step by step through everything that I'm about to show you. So if you follow these, it'll be pretty simple, but I'm just going to show you right now so you can see how incredibly easy this is. I've taught this class on a tour, And I like to take people who are brand new to balloons to be my helpers, and they basically build the wall at my direction. I don't even touch the balloons really. They just put it all together because that's how easy this is going to be. So the very first thing you're going to use are 12-inch linking balloons. I do want to show you a tip that's really, really important when you inflate any linking balloons. Pretty much in every design except for topiary balls, you want to tie linking balloons together as tight as you possibly can, and I'll show you how we do them. Okay, I've inflated them. I, I'm going to cross them over, and you see I'm really pulling on the necks of these balloons. And then you wrap it one good time, and then I hold the tension so the necks don't let go of themselves and come out of my hands. And then I tie them extremely tight. So you're going to have a very strong connection right here. Now, I blew up a lot of these balloons yesterday, and then I also blew up some today. And there will be a difference between the two because the ones I blew up yesterday have lost a little bit of air, and the connection points are a little bit looser based on that fact. I'm going to show you why it's really important that you have them all as tight as you can. So you blow up two linking balloons, you tie them together, right? We are going to start this wall by making, I call them chains of balloons because you're going to tie them end to end. And if you remember, we had 12, 12 columns, and each column had 10 balloons in it. So we are going to make 12 chains of 10 balloons. So you're going to take your two balloons, and then you're going to blow up two more, which you're going to grab the nipples, and you're going to do the same thing. This has to be really, really tight. Right? So now you have four. And you're going to keep doing that. I already have six more right here. You're going to keep doing that until you make your chain of 10. That's one chain of 10. You're going to toss it off to the side, and then you're going to make 11 more for this specific step, which we already have. So I can save you the trouble of that. These balloons are blown up to 9.5 to 10 inches. And I measure linking balloons the same way I measure round balloons. So 9.5 to 10 inches is this direction, not this direction. At least it is on the recipes that that I have for us. How long do the wall? Okay, so these walls will last. It depends on, just like any other kind of balloon decor, the length of time that your decor is going to last is going to be really based on where it's placed, what the air conditioning is like, and all of that good stuff. Balloons that are inside in the AC and the temperature is not cycled or anything overnight, they last a really long time. So you have 12 chains of 10 created. The second step is going to be connecting your chains together. I call these duplet chains. And what that looks like is you're going to come to the end of two chains and you're going to tie those together. Again, really, really tight. And don't forget where you just tied them together, because in order to connect these together all the way down, I'm going to come two balloons down on each side, and then I'm going to twist this part together. And you see how it makes an X where they twist. Then I'm going to do the same thing. Two more balloons down, cross them over, twist them around about 4 times. Then you're going to just do that all the way down your two chains until these are completely connected. And then at the very end, you're going to tie these together. Again, how are you supposed to do it? Super tight. As tight as you can make them. Now, one thing I want you to see is these duplet chains don't really have a lot of structural integrity. They're kind of wobbly and wonky. That's fine for now because we're going to fix that in a minute. I've already inflated all of these linking balloons. So I'm just going to create my duplicate chains. And you can see how quick putting a wall together is once you have the balloons inflated. This part's kind of fun, I think. I really, you notice I kind of go under to grab. I really like to make that wrap super tight because it helps the balloons stay tight when you tie them together. One thing you have to pay attention to when you are designing your wall is if I want both ends of my wall to be the same, where I don't have that one balloon sticking up all by itself, I have to make sure that I am creating my wall where there's an even number of columns. So we have 12 columns that are 10 balloons, 12 chains, right? Each chain is effectively a column. So you have to make sure you design your wall in even numbers with regards to how wide it is, and even numbers with regards to how tall that it is. So this wall from beginning to end, when you have to inflate all of the balloons, if you have this system in place and you're following these instructions, you're not really taking any crazy breaks between. I do notice one of these balloons is going down. I'm going to leave it so I can show you at the end how to fix a balloon in a wall once it's gone, once it started deflating. Um, but from beginning to end, these walls shouldn't take you for a classic balloon wall, which is what I'm going to show you today. Shouldn't take you much longer than a couple hours. And that includes the inflation time if you're somebody who kind of hustles whenever you're inflating balloons. And like I said, you can charge for the wall that I'm about to make, you could charge 600-700 bucks for it. And it can be something that you build in a couple of hours. I don't have too many other products that have that kind of price tag that are that quick and easy to inflate. But classic decor is typically like that. So it's one of the reasons I love it. I will also show you how to modify this wall for a little bit more of an organic look. Okay, so I have all of my duplicate chains made. And there's another balloon that I'm going to have to fix. Once you have your duplicate chains made, it's time to start putting them together, but I don't currently have anything to put them together with, so we have to inflate some balloons. The balloons that we're going to use are 5-inch balloons. I have reflex violet and just a white balloon. Remember, white links, so I want one of my rounds to be white in every duplicate that I make. These are 5-inch balloons, and I'm going to inflate them to about 4.5 inches. And then I like to squeeze the air to the end, round them out, and then I still tie them pretty tight together. Now, because I have instructions, and I've already looked at how many balloons that I need. I know that I need 130 5-inch balloons, which means I need 65 duplets that are going to be exactly like this. Since I've already made them, I'm going to show you what we do with them. You're going to take one duplet and you're going to put it on the end of the balloon or the end of a duplet chain, give it a couple twists around. And then for one of these duplet chains, you're going to put a duplet on each side, and then you're going to put one right here where the balloons twist together. And then for the other duplet chains, you're going to leave one side exposed. And I'll explain why that is in a little bit. But this is as easy as tucking the balloon in, give it a little wrap. Tuck the balloon in, and then I like to pull one through, give it a little wrap around, and then let it sit. You can see how already, see how this is kind of wonky and wobbly? Already, this is starting to be significantly more firm. We're just going to do this all the way for this first duplet chain. And then you'll also notice I'm trying to keep the purple balloons all facing the same direction. To be very honest with you, at this specific point, it's kind of not that important because you can fix it whenever you start getting all of this stuff finished up. Depending on where you guys work, one thing that you really do want to pay attention to is making sure that your workspace is clean. I mean, you kind of want that all the time anyways, but you don't, there's a lot of balloons to this design, and you don't want to have balloons getting garbage all over them as you're making it.
What is that bag that you're using there?
It is a bag that I had sewn. We have some bags in my shop that I've had specifically sewn for different reasons. And it's just some nylon and it got sewn into a nice big bag. Okay, so the first duplet chain, you see I have duplets of 5-inch on every connecting point for the links, except for the very, very bottom. So I'm going to put that off to the side. And then for the second duplet chain and for the rest of them, I'm going to put one on the top. And then I'm just going to do one side, leaving the other side open. So we have some of these bags that I've made for stuff like this, where it can just hold a good bunch of 5-inch balloons or whatever, add-ons for organic arches. And then we have bags that are made to carry columns in. And then we have bags that are made to carry like organic garlands in. And it's just a lot more material used in a bag, that's all. And they're pretty easy to sew. So this design requires 120 linking balloons. And that would mean 3 bags of linking balloons. And I think a bag of linking balloons, oh, I actually remember what those cost right now. Do you have that number, John? Ballpark?
Honestly, I was replying to a question. I didn't hear you.
A bag of linking balloons, 12-inch linking balloons. I'm trying to do a little bit of
I
math
believe
on
it's
what,
50 to a bag.
right, the cost, the price. ballpark?
I always say 25, but I'll look it up.
It's okay. I feel like that's a lot, but okay. So the second and all of the rest of them are going to be built exactly the same. The only thing you have to pay attention to is that you leave the exact same side open. And if you don't, then what you're going to have to do is you just take the balloon off the top and put it where the top really is. Okay, so
So whenever I'm pricing out balloons, I go to Burton and Burton and use their non-wholesale pricing. And their non-wholesale pricing on Lynx is $24.49, so it's $25. Once I
okay,
log in, that does drop, but
so what I mean is, what does this cost me to make? Not what am I selling these balloons
okay, so
to
it's
clients?
$13 for a bag of 50 quick links.
Okay, perfect. So $13 times three, you're looking at 50 bucks ballpark. And then it requires 135-inch balloons. So that's 2 bags of 5-inch balloons. If you're using regular colors, not reflex colors, they're a bit cheaper. And I would say you're looking at less than 10 bucks a bag. So that's an extra, we'll just round up though, 20 bucks. So we're at $70 right now. And then it's going to take 100 11-inch balloons. And again, because you use 2 colors to make it, unless you're doing the whole thing white, you're looking at another 30 bucks. So you're making this entire wall, the latex portion of it, you're looking at a ballpark of like $100. $100 in materials. You're looking at a few hours of your time when you factor assembling the wall on site. And you can sell it for a pretty decent chunk of change. Now, there's other things you can do with these walls aside from just building it and setting it up as a classic wall. I just did a wall where I used the X-weave pattern to make an organic wall. I added lights to it, and this particular client wanted it to be double-sided, and I sold it for right at $5,000. But the things that I'm showing you right now is all of the information you really need to know to be able to do that design, which is pretty cool because the principles are the same. And then obviously the wall was a little bit of a larger wall too. I
And
think it was like,
because somebody asked you previously about one of your deflated balloons, I know you mentioned you're saving it to the end. I'll also say
yes,
that I personally have found and taught my team to save it to the end anyway, because I don't want to be stuck in an endless loop of trying to fix the one balloon and
yes,
end up saving time waiting to the end also.
for sure. Now, part of why I want to save it to the end is if you remember, I already said one of the most important things about linking balloons is that they need to be tight. So if you're replacing a balloon and it's already in the wall, making it tight could potentially be a little bit troublesome. And that's why I wanted to save it and just show you guys. So these that I'm doing now, they're all the same, right? I'm making the rest of these open on one side, and not just open on one side, but open on the same side. And as soon as I get done with this part, I will show you why. So far, hopefully you guys can see, I haven't done anything complicated, anything crazy or difficult. I literally just blew up balloons and I'm twisting 5-inch balloons um, onto some links. Now, if you came up with a really crazy pattern, you definitely would want to slow your roll and make really sure that as you're building this portion out, that you're sticking to your pattern. That would be the thing you have to be mindful of. And any pattern that we design and put in our Balloon Guild website, you really want to just follow it step by step, because I'm going to keep that in mind as I'm designing the recipe so that you can stay on track pattern wise with what you're as you're building. All right, one more to do, and then we can move on to the next step. So again, the ones that I'm putting where the X part forms, I am trying to go in through the big hole. You just put the duplet in, which I could leave it there, but it's not really tied to anything. And then I'm going to pull one balloon all the way through and push it back out the back side. So that kind of locks everything in place. If you're building this guy on site, I would have somebody putting this together. If you're building it on site with a team, I would have one person inflating while someone is putting it together. I would not inflate everything, then start putting it together, because I believe you could make it faster if it's getting built as it's being inflated. Okay, so like I said, you can already see that this has a lot more rigidity than it did before. And I'm going to show you why now. This is the top. The top has the duplet on it. And then I left one side open and the other side has a duplet. I'm going to show you why right now. And that's because you're going to put those together. What I like to do is I like to grab through where they connect and do the same thing on the other one. And then I do the same deal with pulling one balloon through, and then you sort it to the back or shuffle it to the back. I'm going to do this all the way down. So the thing you have to be mindful of at this particular step is what you're using to transport this guy from point A to point B. If you are transporting this in a delivery vehicle, you do not want to make a wall that is bigger than you can take. You do want to make your wall where you can build it in pieces. Like I could just take this and make, so that's 4 columns. Remember, we have 12. I could make my wall in 3 pieces exactly like this. So for right now, that's what I'm going to do, just to show you that you can. So I'm not going to connect this part to this one yet, because I'm going to do it in a little bit, which I would do it ideally when you get to the job site. If you're building this on site, you just build the entire wall, and there's no reason to not connect them all immediately. Hopefully you guys can see this way, and I don't need to somehow show you. I mean, hopefully you can see all I'm doing is popping 5-inch balloons. All that I'm doing is taking a balloon and I'm wrapping it through and pulling it back to the other side. And then you might be able to tell right now, and you may wonder, why have I harped on half of these balloons are going to be the same color as the linking balloons. And what I want you to see is this, is when you look at this balloon, all you see of color is the balloon that has color. If the back balloon was the same color as the front one, there are angles that you could look at the wall and you could potentially see that little bit of color, especially for the plugs, which we'll get to in a minute. But you could look at your wall from an angle and you see some of the color in the back. And what it does is it minimizes the perfect circle of color. And to me, we're professional decorators. This isn't something that I just mess around with for funsies. This is what I do for a living. And those are the kind of tips that are going to separate you from the mom who just bought some balloons on Amazon, watched a video, and now she's doing it herself, which is fine if that's where she's starting, but we're professional decorators. So those are the little details that make a big difference. Now you see I'm using the duplet chain that has the duplets on both ends. This is going to be, obviously it's going to be how you finish out. Because when I'm done, I have the duplets connecting the middle and I have the duplets in the end of on the end of the design. Okay. So I have this in 3 pieces. You could do it in 2. If you wanted, you could do 2 5-foot wide sections. For this example, I'm just doing it in 3. You see how much space it takes up? This would be very easy. Not only do you have to think about getting it out of if you work at home, whatever you make has to get out of your door. Like you got to get it out of your house. It needs to fit inside of your delivery vehicle. And you have to think about, it also needs to go through, depending on where you're putting it, some of the places I work are hotels. I have to go through their back hallway corridor situation. And sometimes there's stuff all in the way. But carrying this, not really such a big deal. It's not very wide, and it's pretty manageable. If I tried to carry a 12-foot by 10-foot wall, all connected, it would be a bit of a problem. Okay, so step 1, you make your chains. Step 2, you create your duplet chains. And then step 3, you inflate your 5-inch duplets and you start putting them to connect your wall together at the connection points where the chains meet or where the linking balloons meet. Okay, so the next step is we're going to use our 11-inch balloons. And this color is like 2-day-old color from Simpertex, and it is Silk Cool Mint. And you'll see it's a very pretty color that's going to go really well with their reflex violet. And then again, white for the back. Now these balloons, these 11-inch balloons, I'm going to blow up to 9.5 to 10 inches. It really doesn't matter how big you blow them up, as long as you're being consistent with the sizing, if that's what you want to do. If I were to make this an organic design, I would still use 5-inch balloons here. I wouldn't really worry about sizing them the same, but this is a very tight connection point for all of the links, which gives it a lot of good structure. At this point, creating these 11-inch balloons, you can really vary the size quite a bit. My recommendation is the balloon that's going to go in the back needs to be the same size as the balloon that's going in the front. And the reason for that, if you think about a line, if I put a lot of pressure this way and very little on the back, it's just going to make your wall bow or bend. But if the pressure is evenly put on both sides, it's not going to want to go either way. So you're balancing pressure. If you're going to use 18-inch balloons or 24-inch balloons or 36-inch balloons on your wall, you can, based on what I just said. do an 18-inch, a 24-inch, a 36-inch on the backside. Personally, I feel like you would be wasting a little bit of money. So what you do instead, for an 18-inch balloon or a 24-inch balloon, I would make a duplicate of white balloons, make them pretty full, and you would use 2 white balloons for every one 18-inch or 24-inch balloon. 36-inch balloon, I use a triplet, and that kind of balances out the pressure. Okay, so again, round these out too, tie them just the same as the others, and that's it. See, it's very pretty color. Okay, now this, what I'm about to do, I call these plugs, and you're gonna see it's really just plugging them into the wall. It's super easy to do when this is on the floor because it just goes through a lot better, and a lot easier. It's not really crazy complicated, so I'm gonna do it standing up and you can get the idea. If you have made your wall entirely, if you're doing this on site, think about what you're gonna have here. You're gonna have a wall that is 10 feet wide, or yeah, 8 to 10 feet wide, and it's all connected, and you're gonna be plugging holes. So think about what this would look like on the ground, and think about, for me right now, I'm standing up. That's easy to reach. But if this is on the ground, you're going to be stepping through these holes to reach the middle. So as you're starting to put your plugs in, start in the middle. Don't paint yourself into a corner, so to speak, or I don't know. I don't know a good example of how to talk about it, but don't fill up all of the outside. And now I'm trying to reach the middle and there's nowhere for me to go. You can step through these holes. You can put your feet in here as long as you're careful to get to the middle to shove these balloons in. And I will show you exactly how easy this is to do. All of these are just 11-inch duplets. I'm going to grab the middle and you're just popping it right in. The reason that I pop it in is so that the balloons kind of just force themselves into the space. This is another part that I would inflate and create at the same time. I wouldn't blow all these up if I had a team of people who were able to do the work. If you're doing it by yourself, then 100% inflating everything and then doing this part is significantly easier because you're not having to change what you're doing and spend a lot of time going from one task to the other. You're just knocking out tasks all at once. Okay, now you can see like this adds even a little bit more structural integrity to the whole thing. And you're starting to see how this can create a really nice looking wall. And hopefully you guys can also see this is a really easy design to create. Probably the hardest part of this design is actually designing, if you're going to come up with a crazy pattern, designing the pattern would be the hard part. Nothing that I've done today that I've shown you guys is complicated at all. All right, so that's 2 pieces done. And again, these would be going out the door into my delivery vehicle. if you needed to, because maybe it's too long. This is about 8 to 9 feet tall, I think. Probably closer to 8. If it's too tall for your delivery vehicle, the way that I'm making it in column pieces, you could also make it in half of a column. So you go and you put your little half columns together and then you add the next set on. Basically, you can make this in a modular way so that delivering it would be pretty simple. Okay, so where we're at currently with this wall is it is in 3 pieces. And potentially, depending on your delivery vehicle, this is what you're showing up with. You're showing up with this, and then you're going to show up with a bag of extra duplets. They're not really extra, but they're duplets that you still need to put on your design when it gets put together. So imagine, if you will, I've unloaded everything. I'm on the job site, and they want this back wall right here covered with this linking balloon wall. So you're going to get your pieces in place, and then you're going to start putting them together. And you're going to use your 5-inch duplets the same way that you did before to connect one of these pieces to the other one. And you see, so far, I haven't had to get up on a ladder or anything right now. And that's by design because I want to keep all of this simple. I like being on ladders, but being up and down on the ladder all day gets really tiring. Then you're going to bring in your next piece and you're going to do the same darn things. All I'm doing is connecting them using these 5-inch duplets, just the way that I did before. I like to get the connection points as close together as possible so it minimizes the stress on these 5-inch balloons as I'm pushing them around. Okay. Now you see I still have these big holes. That's why we brought extra, or not extra, but that's why we brought the additional plugs, because we already know we're going to need them. And once you're finished, nobody's going to be able to know, like, oh man, I saw them bring it in 3 pieces. Like, you're not going to be able to tell, because essentially you've made one wall that is very cohesive from top to bottom, side to side. And you see how long that's taken, right? Not very long, if I'm being super honest with you. That was pretty quick. So looking at the wall, obviously I haven't framed anything yet. I'm going to show you guys a couple options for this. But looking at the wall, now you're going to start paying attention and you're going to look for what are areas that I need to repair. And I already know this one right here needs to be repaired. So I just like to pop the balloon so I can't accidentally overlook and forget that it needs to be repaired or replaced. And I believe it was just those two. Okay. So you're going to inflate your linking balloon exactly as you did the first time, except for instead of tying two balloons together, you're just inflating one. One single balloon. And I will go ahead and tie this balloon off so it doesn't lose air as I'm fiddling around with it. You can take your plug out. What I like to do is take the nozzle, and I like to go on the other side of where I'm going to connect it to. So I'm going to connect the nozzle right where this balloon is to these other ones. I like to reach through, grab the nozzle from the back, and pull it around. You can wrap it, and then I'm going to grab another nozzle that's already tied into this area, and I'm going to tie it off again. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other end of this linking balloon. I'm going to bring it down and through, and I'm going to tie it to one of the balloons that is already tied in this area. And apparently, I like popping 5-inch balloons while I'm doing this. I happen to have extra of these already, so we're just going to replace those. But again, having a tight connection point is still really important to me, even on areas where the balloons have popped and I've had to replace them. I'm going to see, so inflated, tie it by itself. I can just pull this whole wall down a little bit to get to this one. I'm going to reach through, grab the nozzle from the back side, pull it down, and then tie it very tightly to this section that's already connected. And then I'm going to do the same with the nipple end of this one. I have not popped any fire chips. Okay, I'm going to see if I can find a section of this that will demonstrate why we tie these together really tight. What I don't want to see is I don't want to see your balloons looking, I don't know, can you see that? See all that space as I'm pulling these apart? If you tie your balloons really loose, they're going to create a lot of space where the X's are, and your wall is not going to look, it's not going to look like a solid piece. It's going to look like a bunch of stuff has been tied together. Ideally, what you want is like this looks pretty perfect where every balloon is tight to each other. You don't see any spacing between it. You can see a little bit here and there. But again, most of these balloons were blown up yesterday, except for like 2 rows. And not only were they blown up yesterday, but I took everything apart today, which means they've been manhandled quite a bit in preparation for this class. If I left it all together, even the fact that I blew it up yesterday, they would still look really good right now. Okay, so I've shown you how to build the wall. You're going to start with your chains. Then you're going to create duplet chains where you put them together. You're going to add your 5-inch connectors to start connecting those chains and making them structural, start giving them some structure. One edge of that is going to have the duplets on both edges. The rest of them are going to have duplets only on the outside edge. Then you're going to put them together big enough for you to transport, or if it's on site, you're going to build the whole thing from end to end. Then you're going to add your plugs. Now, again, if I wanted to put a 3-foot balloon in here, I would make the balloons in the back also bigger, or I would use more of them so that it balanced out the pressure. if I were to make this wall organic, which I've done plenty in the past, I don't make all of these the same size. I use an Air Force 4 instead of a Precision or a Twin Air. Um, and I just plug them in at random. Then I will take additional duplets, additional add-ons, and I just add those in around and on top of the balloons that are already on the wall until you basically have the entire wall covered for the most part. An organic wall, you're not going to notice that it has a X-weave pattern supporting it. You just don't notice it. It disappears once you add enough balloons onto it. But a very good classic X-weave wall, to me, looks really good. Super easy to make, adds a lot of color to a space, and can very, very easily be a very good priced item for you. Now, as far as framing these walls, I'm going to show you a few options. And in order to do that, I'm going to kind of turn it around so we can pretend like I'm working on the back side of this wall. The other thing that I like about this wall is you see, I'm just one dude. Like I'm one guy and I can handle this wall pretty much by myself. It's not too complicated. You don't have to have a team of like 6 people to make this happen. So in my opinion, the best way of framing this, um, I know not everybody has them, but I have a lot of pipe and drape bases and poles because I do pipe and drape as well. So if you do, I'm going to show you the best framing for this wall or just about any wall that you're ever going to create. And it's just using your pipe and drape poles with a crossbar that you tie onto. I have a crossbar that can go up to 10 feet. Now, what I don't want to do is I don't want my poles to be seen from the front side. So I don't want my poles to be out here and the edges of my wall tied to the pole. So then you just see the pole on the outside. To me, that again, I'm a professional decorator. You're not going to know how I'm putting my stuff together unless you watch me do it. So I bring my poles in a little bit from the edge. And I have, you can see it on the other side the same way. And then the same thing goes at the top. I don't really want it, I don't want the top to be all the way showing. So we're just going to go up pretty much to the top row. I'll straighten this out because it looks a little crooked. Um, now this is where you would end up using 260s, which I don't have over here. So I'm just going to use some 5-inch balloons. But you would use a 260 or something to that effect. And what I would do is you take your 260. In this case, I like to wrap it around where the 5 inches are connected, because what you're really doing is you're connecting it to where you have these 4 balloons tied together. And in this case, my pole would be between all these big ones, so that it's not, if I put my pole here and I'm trying to make it tight, it gets really wonky and weird because those big balloons want to, they don't want to stay up against it very tight. So I'm going to take, and I'm going to adjust this so it also falls between the big balloons at the top. I'm not going to actually tie this in. I'm just going to give you guys the idea. So once you have it here, I just take 260 and I would connect it between some 5-inch balloons and just tie it on. And if you want, you could do, again here, make sure you're doing the corners so that it gives the most support. And then I would do one on each side just so that it doesn't flare out at the bottom. Pretty simple. If this is outside, you actually would want to have an additional support somewhere in the middle, just because this is a lot of balloons and it's a wall that would turn into a big sail if things get windy or crazy or whatever. Okay, so assuming that most decorators who do balloons do not have the pipe and drape equipment that I do, I'm going to give you, it's almost the same thing, but you're using whatever base system that you currently have for yourself. Now, again, for me, I still use my pipe and drape bases, and I use um, a different flange or pen, and it's a lot thinner. If I'm going to use any kind of PVC or EMT or whatever. For the sake of this, just so that you can see it easier, I'm just using this pole. What I would normally use would my pipe and drape or my base system with a piece of EMT down in it, but I wanted you to have something a little thicker to see. And then it's the same principle, except the only difference is um, I don't really have anything going across the top now, but I'm going to use this. And what I would do, because you don't have that top bar of support, I would actually use an additional piece of your pipe and base stuff, just because you want more support. And the same thing can happen here. You're just going to attach the 260s between, make this go between the big balloons, and then attach your 260 to make it nice and secure. Now, I have seen some people who, what they prefer to do is they prefer to shove this pipe in line with the big balloons, and they want it so in line that the pole is actually that these big balloons are actually kind of on each side of the pole. If that makes any sense. There are pros and cons to this. The pro is that I can actually make this pretty tight by doing that. The con is you're going to see that pole from the front side a little bit more because of how this is getting put together. And if you have a sharp top of your pole, then that could happen too. But basically, this is what it would look like on the back side. And you don't see the pole like a ton, but you can see it enough from the front side that I prefer to just have the pole right here where it's completely hidden on the front. And you can use as many 260s to secure this wall to that pole as you want. I would put another one in the middle and then another one on the outside. But again, not the very, very outside edge, but just in so that it's giving support without being seen. The last method, and this method you're not going to be able to do everywhere, would potentially be if you're doing it in a place where their ceilings are magnetic. These walls are not heavy at all. You saw how I was moving it around all by myself, the entire thing. And while I work out, it didn't really take much for me to move this wall. It's not really a workout to do. So you can see, like, I'm just barely doing anything. I could pick up the whole thing. So my point with that is if you're using click magnets, if you have click magnets in your shop, at your home, your toolbox, or whatever, you might be able to get away with having zero framing for this design at all and magneting the top of it up to the ceiling if you're at a place where they have a drop ceiling and they want the backdrop in that area. So if you're decorating like a school cafeteria, sometimes they have magnetic ceilings. Just depends on what the event space looks like. I have magneted backdrops to walls before. A lot of the air walls in big hotels, you got to test them. You can't just assume it is. But the walls that they pull and they fold up and then those walls disappear, a lot of times those are magnetic as well. And if this is going up against one of those, I would much rather just put a few magnets up than worry about carrying pipes and bases and having to take them down and all that stuff. So magnets are pretty easy to use. If you're going to do that, you do need a mag pole usually, or you need a ladder tall enough to get you where you need to go to reach the part that's magnetic. And that is the basics of making an X-weave wall. And hopefully you guys can see how incredibly easy this is and imagine how profitable it is because it's big. First of all, it's really big, tons of color in a small space. You can have branding on balloons, which would be an upsell. I've done that where I have 3-foot balloons put in here with the company's branding. They've done a classic wall, but they wanted some big balloons put in here and there with their company's branding on it. Obviously, that's an upsell. I've put lights in these walls. That's an upsell. You can make the wall really big. You could come up with a really cool design that effectively is put together the same exact way. But if I made this like chevron pattern rainbow with every color is a different, every chevron is a different color, you better believe I'm charging more money for that than I would for this because it's a little bit more complicated. It will look a lot more impressive, and I'm going to make sure that I'm charging money for that as well. Yeah. So I love backdrops. I love balloon walls. I love selling these ideas to clients. We do a lot of putting foil balloons on a wall as well, like spelling somebody's name or their birthday or Happy New Year or whatever. You can add accent pieces to a wall to create something that's really cool. So you can use a backdrop and then you can use like a fancy column, right? So let's say this was black with gold and silver accents. And then I have like a little mini column with a big champagne bottle on top. And I have 2026 or 2025 going across the top, Happy New Year balloons on it. And you're making basically a setup for a really nice photograph. And you're selling them a wall, you're selling them all the upgrades, and you're selling each of these individual pieces just to put around the wall for the photo. These walls are really versatile in how you can use them to create a lot of wealth for your business. So that's the end of the teaching part of this. I hope you guys have learned a lot. I hope that this is something that you're going to start doing. And I personally want to see it when you guys create walls for your customers because I want to feel good knowing that you've learned something that you're going to put use in your business. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them right now. And
We
we'll
did have
go
one
from there.
question about your bag that was unrelated to walls while people are typing in stuff about walls.
Sure.
They were asking what it's made out of. And I know you mentioned already, but what it's made out of and if you were willing to share the design for that.
So nylon is the bag. And then the design is just make a big burrito out of, take a big piece of fabric, like I would have to figure out how big, but really big. And then the red bag is actually like a square. I did not make that one. It's something that I got as part of a acquisition of a business that I purchased. The purple bag is one that we made. That one is a smaller square, but it's pieces of fabric sewn together to create a bag that will fit balloons into it. If you don't know how to use a sewing machine, this is what sewing really is. Learning how to load up a sewing machine. That's all that I really know when it comes to sewing is I know how to load the machine and I know how to step on the pedal and make the fabric go between the needle part.
So there are also many other different types of walls, but relating to this specifically, the X-weave balloon wall that you showed, when you flipped it around, we saw that it was all white, and on the front, it looks like it does now. What are the limitations to making it two different walls?
None. So the only limitation that I would say is the circle of color that I talked about. If the back side of it has a different color, you might see that color on the back side. And not might, you actually would. So you can see right here, you can actually see the white on the back side of that if you look good enough because the angle of what you're seeing.
To
If
better
this,
illustrate that, do you think you just pop one out and put it in the other way?
sure, that's a good idea.
So you'd have to do one to the left of that. That's almost head on for your camera.
Yeah. But when you're walking around, again, it's really not a super big deal. It's not the end of the world. It's actually what I used to do all the time because you're already doing. So this one right here, you can see that behind it, there is some color. If I wanted this wall to be perfectly white, um, you're going to see some color. Now, these balloons, the mint green ones, they're not, I know they look very vibrant here, but they're not that vibrant, to be honest with you. They're a very softer look. But if this was like a red balloon or a dark violet balloon or royal blue or whatever, you're going to see just where that little triangle shape is, you're going to see the color through it. Most people never say anything about that. Like I said, I used to do it where I would use, this is the other part, right? These are brand new balloons, silk mint green. They are not the same price as the fashion white, not at all. So I'm more than welcome to spend twice as much money and use double mint greens on the entire wall and to do every duplet 2 mint greens. Or I can save a little bit of money and use fashion white for the back because one, it's cheaper, and two, it actually looks better. Again, it's not a great example because you can't really see the green, but you can see the balloon. So imagine if that balloon was a brighter, vibrant color. You wouldn't really want that triangle of color right there to be peeking out behind the color that you have in front.
And
It
also,
just breaks up the circle.
and I'll point out, you've already started to make a checker design in the back of that wall just by flipping those around.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to play with color that are very interesting with these walls too. So if you guys, some people said in the beginning they'd never made a wall before. And this is
Okay.
an introduction. So like this is like,
This is the easiest entry to a backdrop. And this is what I'm telling you. When a school comes to you for a homecoming, a prom, a business comes to you and they're talking about a photo op, offer them a balloon wall backdrop. And when you start getting people to order this, you're going to be able to understand how much money you make. Now, again, I told you there's about $100 worth of balloons in that wall. That means make sure your pricing is appropriate. Don't sell this wall for 150 bucks because you're not paying yourself for the time it takes to make it. You're not doing the balloon industry any justice whatsoever because your prices are significantly lower than they should be. We have a pricing class in our SOPs that talks about how to price your decor items. Take that class, and then you can start figuring out how much money you should charge for this wall. But this wall alone, I think I would probably charge like 650 to 700 bucks for it. Any additional questions? Okay, on the balloon to a magnetic wall, not putting tape on venues should have clarified. On the
Oh, we were talking
balloons.
about something else. We were talking about ace
Okay,
taping and attaching to walls and that kind of thing. Yeah.
sure. Which you, again, so let's say that I'm showing up to an event and I don't have pipe and base or whatever, but I do have my toolbox that has different types of tape in it. There is a type of tape. Now, I would clarify with the client and make sure that I could. There is a type of tape that I would be willing to put on a wall because it comes off and it's not, I wouldn't use command strips or any of that. If I were to use a command strip, I would actually put this other tape on the wall first and put my command strip on that tape. And then you could attach your 260 to it and attach that 260 to the wall. I would do like the corners and the middle and then one on each side just to give it the support that it needs to be able to stay up without any problems. So this wall could be easily put up without any framing or magnets. And that just costs you a little bit of tape and a little bit of 260s. But I would never use duct tape on a wall. I would never use packing tape on a wall. It's like it's not even painter's tape, which painter's tape I would,
Gaffer's tape.
yeah, it's gaffer's tape, but there's like this it's like tan ivory colored tape that's like painter's tape, only it's even less sticky. I don't remember what it's called. I would have to figure that out. Okay. Any other questions for me about this? If not, I will stop the recording and then we can talk about the Balloon Guild a little bit and the stuff that we have coming up.